Hello, my name is Michael Price. I'm a sales recruiter. I have been for 25 years. I'm here to talk to you about professional services and consulting role. I'm going to define services much more carefully in a moment. The job title here actually is client partner. It's a new business sales role, and I'll explain their route to market. So they're an interesting company. They turned over £15 million. They've got a target to get to £24 million, and they were bought by a gigantic IT services company that you would definitely know the name of. But they're going to retain their independence. So let's talk about services, and that will explain why that's the case. So I think on one hand, you've got tin services, VAR stuff, companies that are on the VAR 250 that sell maintenance and that kind of stuff. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got consulting services and advisory services, the type of which that Capgemini, KPMG, Deloitte sell. And actually, everywhere between there is a spectrum. And in the centre, I'm going to say to the right of the centre is professional services. To the left of that centre point is just straight fulfillment of services. There's nothing wrong with this segment over on the left, but really it's important to note that this client sits here. They sell consulting services, professional services, and in some cases advisory services, and those services are around data and AI. Now, their owner, the parent, sits firmly over here, and you can't knock them. They're gigantic, they're unbelievably successful, they're a name that most people in the IT industry would know. But if the parent's name is about big IT services in volume, it would dilute this company's brand and their appeal. So therefore, those two things are staying quite carefully split. So the role is new business. Route to market is clearly the parent. It's and it has the supporting infrastructure is the word I've used here. And as long as I've done this job, the better companies have an infrastructure of a sales infrastructure, I should say, that will support the salesperson's effort. Now, at some point, you've got to be accountable for your target, but actually, the infrastructure is being built here, and the parent has the infrastructure. And clearly, there's some referenceability that, in some cases, whilst we're trying to maintain this unique identity, you're obviously going to use the parent's name because the parent's one of the biggest IT services companies in the UK. Target will depend on the person and the basic salary, and it's currently selling to cross vertical. Their sweet spot really are companies who turn over around 300 million. So from a background perspective, and I'm smiling because it's an interesting point really, but ideally they want somebody who's sold consulting services. That would be great. Or you could just be a good salesperson. And actually what's funny about this job is to find a good salesperson in the IT industry who's just generally a good salesperson who wins new business, who understands how to communicate a complex message and simplify it for the needs of the client, who understands how to develop a need with the client rather than just turn up and sell some SaaS software where the client already knew that they were going to buy HCM software. That's actually quite difficult, and it's a lot more difficult than you'd think. But they will consider non-services salesperson here. From a personal perspective, it's a tough one because you need to sell consulting services but not be a consultant, and you've got to be a new business salesperson, and you've got to be somebody who manages their own time well. Completely open from a vertical perspective. Package is 80 to 100k basic. You're paid 3% of revenue, and if you work it back to the targets, broadly speaking, the OTE will work out to be just a bit over double basic. I think the other parts of it is this business is beautifully positioned. They are selling consulting around data and AI in a market that has an incredible appetite for data and AI. They're beautifully positioned as a business, their brand is great, and they're owned and have the security of an IT company who are one of the best known IT companies in the UK. It's a really good place to be. And then on top of that, if they can hit their target, if they can go from 15 to 24 million, they've nearly doubled revenue, and there's growth inbuilt as part of that. And I've recruited for this hiring manager. I've known him for quite a long time, maybe 20 years, something like that. And he actually delivers on the business plans he gives the business. So you would think it's as sure a bet as you're going to find. My contact details are on the screen, also the email address of my colleague Jo. It's unlikely I'll speak to her, but she and I do work pretty closely together. Thank you. I'll hopefully hear from you soon.